Welcome to the Beat Pain Podcast, where we hear stories of hope, learn what actually works for pain, and we become active with exercise. In today's episode, you are going to learn how service dogs can sense anxiety and help people with PTSD, the methods used to train these extremely intelligent dogs, and why you might need one. I will be speaking with the outreach consultant at Doggie Do Good, which is a full-service training facility in San Luis Obispo, California. They offer a service dog program for people with disabilities who need a service dog to help with the daily tasks of life. Last year, they were featured on BuzzFeed. You can find their YouTube videos by typing Puppy Prep into YouTube. If you want to reach out to the team at Doggie Do Good, go to their website at doggiedogood.com. You will also find their information in the show notes. This is my conversation with Destiny Aragon. My guest today is Destiny, and I am really excited to be talking to her. She's got a great background working with service dogs and people who need dogs to help them with different abilities that they have in their body. So, Destiny, I'm just curious having you on today. In working with different service dogs and working with a lot of people out there with different conditions, what do you feel like is the most important thing that people miss in looking for a service dog? When people are out there and they're trying to find the right service dog, what are some of the things that maybe they miss that they feel like they don't understand about dogs that you can help them with today?
I think a lot of people don't understand who exactly needs a service dog. Sometimes people are dealing with pain physically or emotionally, and they think that they don't qualify for a service dog, I guess I should say. So
Hmm.
people feel like they're taking away from other people. It just like for someone with PTSD, for example, if they're a non-veteran, they feel like they are taking away from a different person that might need a service dog, when that's just not the case. I think a lot of us, when we think of a service dog, we think of an elderly person in a wheelchair going to the grocery store with a dog. But
Yeah.
that's just not the case, not anymore at least. They could do a variety of different things for different people.
Hmm. And I mean, how has that mindset kind of changed for people? Like, have service dogs always been for people who had things like PTSD and emotional stress going on in their life? Or were service dogs, originally for people who are older or people who are blind, and we've kind of changed over the years and realized more uses for service dogs than we originally thought?
We have definitely adapted over the years. Definitely in the beginning, a lot of the service dogs are for mobility work, guide work, like seeing eye dogs, things like that. But over the years, I think the doctors and therapists have realized that service dogs can be a big use for people with emotional issues and PTSD, autism, anxiety, things like that, where dogs actually produce it's actually like a proven scientific fact that dogs make people happier. So they have, when you stare into the dog's eyes, or gaze, I should say, you produce oxytocin, which is otherwise known as the happy hormone.
Hmm.
So that's something that dogs do just by having a dog in general, not even a service dog necessarily, but even more so when it is a service dog and it actually can do a task along with that, like pressure therapy or things like that.
Hmm. That reminds me, I know that in Santa Barbara, there's the university, and during their finals week, they'll do a lot of, all the students are studying super hard. They're all going to take tests and stuff, and everybody's super stressed. And I don't know if you knew about this, but they'll have a whole week during finals week where they'll just bring dogs on campus, and the students can play with the dogs as a stress reliever. Did you know that they did
Yeah,
that?
we
Yeah.
actually do that.
Oh,
We
you
do
do
that
that?
here.
I didn't know that you did
Yeah.
that. No way. That's hilarious. Oh my
Yeah, we
gosh.
bring our dogs to like the local high schools or the local colleges, and we bring them so they can kind of be a stress reliever for for the students that are in finals week.
Of course you guys would be doing that. That's so perfect. Yeah. No, so yeah, you're right on when you're saying that. I think that a lot of people, when they interact with dogs, do get stress relief very frequently. Now, I'm curious, um, when people don't have a service dog, what are kind of the negative effects? I mean, what is it that a service dog is specifically helping with that if people don't have a service dog, they're kind of missing out on?
So service dogs can help with a variety of different things like seizure disorders, diabetes, MS, POTS, and people without those, they're not living their life to the fullest, I guess, the best quality
Hmm.
that they could be living. Because a service dog can do different things that would help them in their everyday life. We have someone that was just basically a hermit inside their home. And
Hmm.
after getting the service dog, she had called us and she was crying because she was so happy that she was able to go to the grocery store.
Wow.
And even something as simple as going to the grocery store, people don't think that that's like a big deal, but it really is. That can be really difficult for someone with disabilities. And having a service dog with them really gives them the independence that everyone wants.
Hmm.
So the independence that people need to have a service dog.
Now, put me in the mindset of people who are in pain or who have those kinds of issues. When they're trying to go to the grocery store, why is it exactly that a dog would actually help them? Is it because they're having, mobility issues or social anxiety? Like, what is it about a dog that would make that difference?
So it's a mix of both social anxiety and mobility issues for different kinds of people. People with mobility issues, they're not confident going grocery shopping because maybe they can't move around like their car without having a mobility dog with them, or even picking up items that they drop when they're picking it up off the shelf. If they drop something, they're not able to bend over and pick it up easily like anyone else might be able to do. The dog will actually pick up the item for them and
Hmm.
hand it to them directly or put it right in their basket for them. So
Hmm.
they're able to freely just confidently walk through the aisles, get whatever they need to get, and then check out. Whereas people with social anxiety, sometimes just setting foot into a grocery store can put them into a full blown panic attack.
Yeah.
Or that be because they're nervous of people coming up to them or they're scared of being out alone. That service dog is really there as a crutch for them
Yeah.
to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of a story. One time, I was driving through my grandma's neighborhood, and she lives in kind of like an elderly home neighborhood. And right as I got up to her house, I saw that her neighbor was actually outside her house, sitting on the floor, and a gentleman was next to her trying to help her up. So I parked outside my grandma's house. I walked over to the lady, and she had fallen. And she wasn't able to get up, and she was a little bit overweight. And the other gentleman was trying to also help her get up, but they needed another person to help them. And thinking about if she had had a service dog, the service dog could have either maybe helped her maneuver or get up, or at least gone to alert other people. I mean, fortunately, she was outside her home so people could see her. But if she had been in her backyard, how would people have known that she'd fallen over? And maybe she wouldn't have been able to get up. A service dog
Hmm.
would have been huge for somebody like her. So,
Definitely.
absolutely. Yeah. It also kind of makes me think too about, I don't know if you notice this, but sometimes I see in the homeless population that they have a lot of dogs with them. And I almost wonder if they kind of try to keep dogs, even though that could be really hard, being on the streets. I almost wondered, thinking about the emotional connection, if they try to keep dogs around because it's kind of like another person. It's like another person there who cares about them. And for a person who's in pain or who can be stuck at home and you're isolated, it's nice to kind of have someone that you can talk to. You feel like that person, you can trust that person. And it's not a human person, but it's like a dog person. It's like the dog is actually somebody that you have a relationship with. And I think that that can be really important for a lot of people. I think that's really vital.
Yes, they are lifelong companions for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They easily become your best friend. You're with them at all times,
Yeah.
and you really form a deep bond with your service dog.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, just thinking about dogs versus other animals. There's the common saying of, dog is, man's best friend, but why exactly dogs as opposed to like cats or birds? Or, there's some things that I could think would be maybe a little bit obvious, like dogs are a little bit bigger, so they can help with mobility. But, are there other reasons why to pick dogs as opposed to a different kind of animal?
Dogs are always wanting to help you, basically. Dogs are very, how can I serve you type of animals, whereas a
Hmm.
cat is more so like, what am I going to do today and how am I going to serve myself?
Yeah.
Where a dog is always, they're very in tune with their person and they can pick up things that they can sense how you're feeling without you having to even, be around them really. So
Yeah.
anytime they are with you, they can sense how you feel. They want to make you feel better. We had one dog that graduated and we had trained it for a specific type of path, but after graduation, it had bonded with the owner fully. It actually started picking up on her cortisol levels.
Oh, wow.
So when she started to feel anxious, it would actually alert her beforehand. So it was really crazy because she was able to sit down and calm herself down before she was thrown into a full blown panic attack in public.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you were saying, you were talking about how dogs can not only sense your anxiety, but then they can kind of react if you have, a social anxiety with a group of people. The dog actually knows how to kind of nudge you in a way to almost bother you so that it gives you an excuse to get away from the social environment. I mean, I'm curious how you train a dog to do something as complex as that.
That is one of my favorite behaviors. I personally call it the getting out of situations alert.
Yeah, which
And
I
it's
need
a
all the
very
time.
it's very discreet. So obviously the person can't be like alert, alert, because then everyone is like, what are you saying?
Right.
So the person actually gently taps their leg, and then the dog will start nudging them, pawing at them, looking at them, and they can leave. So that's how we train that here. So we just tap our leg, and then the dog picks the alert. So the dog will pick like if they're going to nudge at them or paw at them. And we do that constantly every single day until the dog understands what we're asking of them without actually saying anything, because it definitely is a little bit more difficult because you can't give them a verbal command. It has to be off of a hand signal because that's crucial
Yeah.
for that specific task.
Yeah.
So that is one of my favorite ones. And then you can be
Yeah.
like, oh, my dog has to go potty, the dog is hungry, I gotta go.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. I can think of so many uses for that. That's amazing. What are other things that dogs are trained to do? I mean, for somebody who is having social anxieties or, PTSD or is having mobility issues, I mean, what else could the dog do to actually help them with some of those issues?
A popular one is barrier control. So basically, the dog will go on either side of someone and act as a buffer between them and anyone else. So if they get overwhelmed in crowds or even just in line at the grocery store,
Hmm.
the dog will go in and basically get someone out of their personal space,
Hmm.
which is really important for a lot of people with social anxiety. They don't want someone so close to them. Another one is pressure therapy, and that is basically it takes the place of a weighted blanket, except it's a living weighted blanket that will actually kiss you and cuddle with you.
Yeah.
That one is pressure therapy. Another popular task that we do is interruption alerts. So we will interrupt a physical cue. So some popular ones are crying, hyperventilating, skin picking.
Hmm.
When the dog sees that, they'll actually go over and start nudging them and basically get in the way of them to
Hmm.
interrupt them. And then they can divert their attention to the dog.
Wow. I mean, that is such an intelligent dog. Is there any way to do like an IQ test with dogs? Is that a thing?
I
Like how, I
actually
mean, they're
don't
just,
know.
I mean, if there is, don't tell me the results because I don't know if I want to compare it to myself. But, I just imagine that these dogs are like brilliant after you've been able to train them in all these different skills and stuff. It's really incredible.
They're incredibly smart.
Yeah. Going back to people who have, anxiety in line when they're at the grocery store. I mean, for people who don't have social anxieties, like what would cause that kind of social anxiety? How does somebody get to the place where, they get nervous being in the grocery store with other people?
So that is caused by generalized anxiety disorder a lot of the time, or PTSD. And basically, for them it feels like they can't breathe. They start to get really sweaty, and it's like kind of like a sense of paranoia. They're like, "Oh my goodness,
Mm,
everyone is staring at me. I feel like I'm gonna pass out." Just by checking out in line at the grocery store. So
yeah.
it can be a lot. We don't people really don't think of it because when we're in line at the grocery store, we're just getting our ice cream and moving on. But when they are going, it's really like a battle of how to get in and how to get out the quickest way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the dog helps kind of fight that battle on that person's behalf a lot. Yeah. Um, what types of dogs are you mostly working with? Like what breeds, what kinds of dogs are you working with?
The primary breeds are labs, goldens, and doodles. So that could be a labradoodle or a golden doodle.
Okay.
Those are the breeds that we found have the best temperament. So those are the main breeds that we work with for
Okay.
service work.
When you say temperament, I mean you like its behaviors, like it's obedient. It's, what do you mean when you say temperament?
When I say temperament, we are looking at their basic obedience, how easy they are to train, basically, how quickly they
Hmm.
can pick up on the tasks that we're giving them,
Okay.
their confidence when they are out and about, and even when they're not around their litter mates.
Hmm.
and also how forgiving they are. So when we're
Hmm.
doing the temperament testing, we will squeeze their paws a little bit to see how forgiving they are, because sometimes people with service dogs, especially if they're in a wheelchair, they're going to run over the dog's paw, they're going to run over the dog's tail, inevitably, after
Yeah.
having a service dog for X amount of years.
Hmm.
So we want to make sure that that service dog is not reactive in any way.
Hmm. Okay. Now, with these dogs, I mean, I'm trying to put myself in the paws of the dog, if you would. But just in kind of their perspective, like, is this like work for the job or for the dog? Is this like a job, or do they like enjoy being with the owner and doing all of that? Or do you feel like it's kind of like their duty, their responsibility, like they are like a work dog doing this?
So that's a good question. Some dogs we have to really work with the different dogs to see what their personality is like. Some dogs are like, yes, I want to work, I want to do this, I want to perform this task, and I'm so happy to be doing it. Some dogs are like, I don't know if I want to do this. And those dogs actually will end up washing out of our program, because a service dog can work for 10 plus years, right? And they have to like their job. We
Hmm.
want the dog to enjoy what they're doing, because one, we don't want to force the dog to do something that it doesn't want to do, but
Right.
also that can cause issues for the handler, because then they're not going to ask the dog to do things for them if they feel like the dog doesn't want to do it, and then it's
Yeah.
just completely pointless for them.
Right.
So we always have to make sure that the dog is a go-getter and ready to do what it needs to do. But it is so cute, because the dogs usually, when they perform a task, after they perform it, when they're in training, they're jumping up and down, they're wagging their tails, they're so excited because we're throwing a party for them,
Hmm.
and they really like what they're doing.
Yeah. I've maybe you don't know the answer to this or not, because I know these are, or I assume that you don't really work with these kinds of dogs, but I've been told that sled dogs in the snow get really happy by actually running and doing the sled work, and it's not work to them, it's play. Is that a myth? Am I making that up, or is that true? Do you know?
I actually don't know, but I would imagine that they would like doing it, because it's usually we say that dogs with jobs are dogs that are really happy because they want to be doing something.
Hmm.
So I could see that being true.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I've never worked with any, sled dog trainers. I mean, I'm in, California, like that's where we're at. So it's, there's no snow down here. So, so I don't really see a lot of sled dogs, but yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that if a dog has a job, it's kind of happy doing that job. So by, being able to give the dog something to do with a person, it probably makes the dog feel really good about itself. Makes the dog feel like, oh, I'm accomplishing something, I'm working towards a goal, I'm being with this person, I'm being useful. Like if the dog has that mindset, then it really enjoys that, wants to be doing that. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. um what got you into this work? Why is it that do you love the dogs? Do you not like dogs? It's just something that you do. I mean, why work with dogs? Why not do something else? What made you want to work with dogs?
So service dogs have always really intrigued me. I always have seen them out and about. And I know you're not supposed to go up and pet a service dog, even though it's really difficult, even for me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got the opportunity to get this job, I immediately applied. After working here for only just a few months, I knew this was definitely something I wanted to do long term. I've been here for about 3 years now, and it is just an incredibly rewarding job. It's amazing to be able to see the drastic changes that these dogs make in people's lives, especially when we're during the matching process. We review the applicant extensively. So we're reviewing their needs, personality, and lifestyle. Then we're reviewing the dogs that we have here, and we're matching them with the dog that's best fit for them. And a lot of times people don't meet their dogs until graduation. So when they do meet them for graduation, it's so fun to see the instant connection that they have to their handler.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of a magical moment to experience and be there to witness that. So yeah, I can see how that would be almost addicting to see, like, oh, this person's life is going to be totally different now that they've got this dog, and they're going to be so much happier and be able to do so many more things. It really is something that's very rewarding. It's a great thing to be able to do. Yeah,
Definitely.
that's awesome. For anybody who's out there and they're listening to this, trying to ask the question, is it right for me to get a service dog? They're thinking about what's going on in their bodies, or their emotions, or what's happened in their life. How can they decide if a service dog is right for them? What advice would you give those people listening right now?
So a service dog can be for someone of any age, so it can be for a child or for an adult, with for a variety of different disabilities and needs. So if you feel like a service dog could be beneficial for you, I would highly encourage you actually calling us directly and giving us a call, and we could see um, what service dog would be the best fit for you and possibly put together some potential matches for you. But basically, anyone that feels they need one, like people with anxiety, seizure disorder,
Mm,
diabetes, POT, MS. If you feel that you need one, you probably do need one, and it's definitely something that we would want to talk about.
yeah, absolutely. I'm happy that you mentioned diabetes in there, because I've actually known people with diabetes who've gone into diabetic comas before. And if people weren't around to be there to help them, that's a situation where you wouldn't normally think with diabetes that you might need a service dog. And I think that that actually can be extremely helpful for people with that condition. I just wanted to point that out because I think that one can get missed with people. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What's some of your process with the dogs? When you've got somebody who's interested in a dog and they've got different needs. I mean, how do you know that you're getting the right dog to the right person? How do you make that match with people?
So, in the very beginning of the application process, the handler gives us a breakdown of what an average week looks like for them, also what their personality traits are like, and we mimic that exactly during the training. So, we had someone that frequently went to concerts all the time. So, I actually brought that dog to concerts, and she ended up being my concert buddy for about 6 months.
Wow,
Um,
that is so
and
cute.
exactly, so it's a lot of fun, but we're mimicking their lifestyle as much as we can. So another person that would always go to amusement parks, and we're only about 2.5 hours away from Disneyland, so we actually bring those
Mm,
dogs to Disneyland. Um, Nail salons, movie theaters, just so the dog is getting used to that environment ahead of time, and it's a smooth transition for the owner. But we're looking at their personality, their needs, their lifestyle, and then all of us are mimicking that here for about 6 to 12 months until we feel that the dog is ready to go on.
yeah. And I've been thinking about something in my head while we've been talking. I was a little bit curious, thinking about dogs and some of the different options that people have. Why would somebody pick a dog as opposed to like a caretaker? There's a lot of people who get like in-home nursing or different things like that. I mean, there are some situations where maybe that's the right thing for people, but
Mhm.
what are some of the differences, and why would you say that maybe somebody should get a dog as opposed to a caretaker in certain circumstances? I mean, is there plus and minuses to that? What would you think?
Yeah, so of course, caretakers are sometimes always necessary, but in the certain circumstances, a dog teaches the handler responsibility, and not only responsibility, but empathy as well.
Hmm.
Having a service dog really forces the handler to care for another living being and not rely on someone else,
Hmm.
therefore, making that handler more independent, which is ultimately what service dog handlers want. They want to be more independent.
Yeah.
Um, Not only that, but the dogs produce the oxytocin. Like I said back to the beginning, when they gaze into the dog's eyes, they're producing the oxytocin. And if you try to do that with a caretaker, it might be a little bit awkward for the both of
That
you.
could be awkward. Yeah, that could totally be awkward.
But with the dog, it's going to make you happy and you're able to cuddle with them and kiss them, that you're not going to want to do that with your caretaker.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the cuddling. Yeah, that is an important one. That's interesting. Do you have like recommended like cuddling or staring into dog eyes like dosages daily or something like that for people who do service
I
dogs?
all the time.
Yeah,
Anytime that you get the chance to do it because
that's
it
great.
produces it every time. I do
That's
it all the
great.
time with my personal dog, and I don't know if you have a dog, but you can feel like you just get like that tingly feeling being around your dog and staring at them.
Oh, that is so awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, I love that so much. People listening, you got to go and interact with some service dogs. You got to feel better with dogs. You got to stare into their eyes, cuddle with them. If you feel like a service dog is right for you, definitely reach out to Destiny at Doggy Do Good. Okay. I think that that's going to be a great experience for you. Definitely go find out more about dogs there. Destiny, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I just love talking to you and I love hearing more about what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you want to be involved with the podcast, there are two ways for you to do that. First, if you have any questions you want answered or topics you want us to talk about, then click on the Beat Pain website link in the show notes and message me. Second, if you want to continue listening to great content and guests, then I need your help to build the podcast and get those guests on the show. The bigger the podcast gets, the easier it is for me to bring on more amazing guests. Subscribing, writing a review, and sharing this with others helps the show to grow. Thanks so much for listening.